I'm Susan Odell. Welcome to the Foodell Kitchen. Beans are a fabulous source of protein, and they also happen to be one of the cheapest forms of protein, especially if you buy them in their dried form. Beans are actually a legume, and a legume is any kind of plant species that grows a pod, and inside that pod, when it splits open, are the seeds, which are the beans. Think peas, soybeans, any kind of bean. Also, even peanuts are legumes, as are lentils. Once those seeds are taken from the pod and dried, they become pulses. Not a big deal, you don't need to remember that, just a little bit of trivia. But let's have a look at some common pulses today and talk about how to cook them. So first of all, you can buy just about any bean or legume in its dried form. Go to the bulk section if you really want a good value. I've got black beans and kidney beans and fava beans here, all kind of different colors and different sizes. Anytime you're working with a dried bean, you need to soak it. You need to allow time and you need to plan ahead. They need to soak in cold water, good 8 to 12 hours overnight. The night before you want to eat them, put them in water and let them soak. This helps to soften the bean and also eliminate flatulence, which, as we know, has been associated with beans for way back. But to help your gastrointestinal disturbances, if you do soak your beans, that is going to help, but also eat them more frequently. The more you eat them, the more your body adjusts to them. You'll be able to digest them easily, and you'll get all of that great fiber and protein that goes along with them. After you've soaked your beans, you want to make sure you sort through them and look for any damaged beans or even stones that happen as a part of the production process or the harvesting process. Just remove those. You may end up with a handful of beans that you don't want to cook. That's okay. Also, when you're cooking them, a lot of times those bad ones will rise to the top and you can just skim them off. But once they've been rinsed and sorted, you still need to cook them. So we're 8 to 12 hours into the soaking process. Granted, it's pretty hands-off, but now you want to soak them, you want to cook them. Bring them to a rolling boil on the stovetop. They need to boil for a good 10 minutes, and that removes any leftover toxins that might still be in the beans. And once they've boiled for 10 minutes, you're going to turn them down and you're going to continue cooking. Obviously, the beans that I have are very different in size, and they're going to take different amounts of time to cook. Anywhere from 45 minutes maybe for the small black beans to an hour and a half for the larger, tougher beans. As soon as your beans have cooked and they're soft and they're a nice texture, you want to season them. That helps to not only provide great flavor, but it helps to keep the outside skin nice and soft and the texture perfect. Now, another form of dried legume or pulse that's really good in protein are lentils. And lentils don't require that soaking. Most lentils don't. The smaller versions. We've got a few varieties here, your classic brown and your beautiful pink and your tiny little green lentils Dupuis. They come in different prices, and you can usually find a good variety in maybe a health food store in the bulk section like Whole Foods, or you can find your basic brown lentils in almost any grocery store. They are delicious, they're nutritious, and they're a lot faster to cook. Maybe even only 20 to 30 minutes on the stovetop in boiling water. You can flavor these beans in just about any way you want. They are delicious and nutritious, and they're really a good thing to start eating and incorporating in your diet. Now, if you don't really have time or the energy to go through the dried bean process, there are some good canned alternatives. Whenever you buy canned beans, though, just read the ingredient list. You wouldn't think you'd have to, but it should have only 3 things: the bean, water, and salt. That's all you need to preserve them. Any bean that's in a can is fully cooked, but some cans tend to add thickeners for the sauce and some other flavor ingredients and maybe even some preservatives that you really don't need. Beans, salt, and water is all that should be in the can that you buy. Now, this may cost 8 or 10 times what dried beans cost, but you can still feed a family of 4 as a side dish with these beans for less than $2. So it's still a great form of protein and very, very affordable. Before you use canned beans, rinse them really well under running water. That will get rid of most of the extra sodium, which is really the downside and the only downside of buying canned beans. They can have a ton of salt in them. So rinse them well. That'll get rid of most of the extra sodium, and they'll still have a really nice flavor, and you can flavor them up however you want. Both dried beans and canned beans store for a long time. Keep your dried beans in a cool, dark place in your pantry, and they'll keep for a good year or even more. They might take a little longer to cook if you keep them more than a year. After you've cooked the dried beans or opened your can, the cooked beans will keep in your refrigerator for another 3 to 4 days. So use the beans, incorporate them in your diet. Great source of protein and a must for vegetarians. Bon appetit. Beans, well, let me do it again.